Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Estate Expectations Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Pickle. And today I have an amazing guest. She's a friend first, she's a colleague, and she's also my advisor. Yes. And so I'm very, very pleased to introduce to all of you Isabel Rothy, which is a newer last name, right? You're a newly married gal,
yes,
right?
Used to be Isabel Clausen, now
Yes.
Isabel Rothy, and everyone mispronounces the last name, so you
Yes.
did great.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to make very sure I get your last name. Do the justice to the last name. And so tell everybody a little bit about what you do and your business.
Yes, so I'm a financial advisor and a certified financial planning professional. I offer investment management services, which is kind of the basic bread and butter of what the company I've worked for has done for over 25 years. But we also do financial planning for people, whether that's retirement income planning or education planning, student loan planning, if you're saving to buy a house, or maybe you're much older and want to sell your house before retirement, all those different topics. The financial planning's very much what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you own and operate your firm. Do you call it a firm? I call it a firm because I have a law firm.
Business,
so
office,
right. Okay, fine.
Many terms, yes.
Do you own and operate with your dad, correct?
Yes,
Rob.
I work with my father, Rob Clausen. He's been doing this for over 40 years, but 25 years ago, he started Desert Wealth Management, which is where we work right now.
Right.
Yeah, and we have two offices, one in Idaho, which Dad started before I was born. And then we opened up an office in Fountain Hills, Arizona 3 years ago.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yes, 3.5 now, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who may not be familiar, Fountain Hills is kind of a, I don't know, would you call it a sleepy suburb of Scottsdale? But it's a beautiful community just outside of Scottsdale. I just want to say a little bit about why I chose Isabel for my advisor. There's many reasons, of course, but I just want you to know this as well. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but besides the fact that, obviously you're very well studied and very intelligent, and I feel like our energies really matched and mingled well. I really love the whole dynamic with you and your dad running your business together. So I think your dad and I are probably more in the same generation, if you will, right? So we can relate to each other on certain issues and topics. But my planning is really not only to benefit myself and my husband, but to eventually benefit my son, who is in your particular generation. And so my thought was, wouldn't it make sense to work with an advisor who would be there perhaps long after I'm gone to have my son's back. So for all of you who struggle with choosing financial advisors, I want you to take that into consideration. Think about, who your children would best be suited to work with, or work alongside with when it comes time to, think about, how to carry on your legacy, how to reinvest, the assets that you leave them. Does that make sense? That's how I really came to my decision.
Yes, and that's why a lot of clients choose to work with my dad and I. He has over 40 years of experience, but the clients know that their advisor will retire long after they do, given that I won't retire for a very long time. So I get to work with their kids and their grandkids, but they also get a lean on my dad's decades of wisdom. So it's been really good. I love working with my dad. I have a lot of friends who say, I could never work with my father. It was definitely an adjustment at the beginning, but he's one of my best friends, and it's great to work with him.
Yes, and I admire the two of you and your business model because I too dream about the day that my son might come into the firm and practice law alongside with me, and eventually buy out the practice or inherit or whatever we decide to do. But we have so much synergy between Isabel and I, and so even though we are in different generations, we really do bridge the gap. And I think most importantly, it's with respect to health and wellness and wealth. And this is what I want to talk about today is your perspective on wealth planning, the holistic approach, and how it does tie in, to health. So tell me a little bit about your holistic approach to financial planning with respect to investment management, cash flow, and how this approach considers the broader context of the family's well-being and life purpose.
Yes, it's a lot to
dive
into. No, I'm excited. So my father and I love talking about not just financial wealth, but financial health. Because if you don't have a healthy foundation, the wealth will either crumble or it won't build effectively. And that's one reason why we love working with generational type of family, where if a family knows they're going to receive an inheritance in 20, 30 years, but they don't have the financial health to stabilize that. A lot of times when people do walk into an inheritance, they don't know how to effectively spend it well, save it well. So that's one aspect of it. But even if inheritance planning is not part of someone's plan, and for a lot it's not, financial health is still very important because you have to have that firm foundation. So whenever Dad and I work with clients, no matter where they're at, what level they're at, what age, we always start with the basics. And so one way we describe it to people is the offense and defense of financial planning. So you have to have the defense before you have a strong offense. The defense is making sure you have an adequate emergency savings, making sure you work toward paying off high interest debt, looking at where you're at financially with, do you have a 401k or another employer sponsored plan at work? Is it in your best interest to put more in than what they're matching or just go up to the match? And then looking at, where you're at with your Roth IRA contribution, health savings account contributions. So we start from the ground up to really build that wealth, because it's our goal for wealth to last longer than someone's living. We want it to last generations. And so that's one aspect of the holistic part. So we start at ground zero and get as complex as we need to with the financial planning, depending on what someone's needs are.
Of course, and that looks different for everyone, I'm sure.
Yes, yeah, whether it is generational planning or there's a lot of tax efficiencies you could take advantage of with investing and financial planning. Some people, depending on where they're at and the stage of their health, need more life insurance. So we do life insurance planning. We do estate planning education, but the professionals definitely, such as Elizabeth, take care of that. So there's a lot of aspects to someone's holistic financial life, but we do like to have the firm foundation before we start talking about investment management, because that's a whole other ballpark. And I truly believe that you have to have that healthy foundation for investments to work in your favor.
Right. And that's a nice segue into the way that we do at my firm, the way that we do estate planning. Is so many people come in and they want all these elaborate types of trusts and asset protection trusts, but they have no foundation first. And so I love that, again, we're on the same page with this holistic type of planning. I love that whole analogy, the offense and the defense. You've got to have the defense set up first, your foundation built, and then you continue to build on it, just like you would a house. You build the foundation and you build the house, and then you can decorate the house with all this incredible artwork and,
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, right? So then what about, can you share some insights on how maintaining good health can reduce healthcare costs, enhance overall financial well-being, and increase family time? I mean, obviously we know it's important to take care of our health.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And there's the mental health and the physical health component. And of course, life requires a lot of hard work, a lot of hard decisions. There's many things in life that we can't control. Yeah. But when we're talking about physical health, of course, the healthier you are when you're younger, and those healthy habits will help you be healthier when you're older. And things happen that are out of our control, of course. But what I always tell people is, if you don't have your health, what's the point of the wealth? If you work your entire life and you don't take care of your health, and you have a great, beautiful nest egg to spend time with your family, but you can't go on trips or vacation, or maybe something terrible happens, health is, I think, required for the beautiful, fruitful life. And then having enough money in your budget to prioritize health. When I work with next generation investors, as I call people in their 20s and 30s, we always talk about, having a values-based budget, even for people in retirement. And allocating enough to have healthy groceries if that's possible, or pursue different healthy hobbies such as going on hikes or gym classes or trips. So really having that values-based budget that aligns with health, because that's what makes it much better than having all the aches and pains of life, if you could avoid them. Yeah.
Exactly. And there are only, I think, maybe 2 or 3 ways to really cover the cost of your health care later in life. I mean, I think number 1 is you're going to pay for it in cash.
Yep.
Or number 2, you're going to, be in a place where you're considered impoverished. And then that's when the state government type of Medicaid, Medicare will step in and take care of you. And then there's also, long-term care health insurance. And so there's really about 3 different ways that you can cover your health care. So you certainly want to be very mindful going into later years of life, how you're going to pay for your health care, because I think it's something you probably should be counting on. I mean, we all age and we can take great care of ourselves, but as you said, things come up, unknowns.
Yes.
And so very important to plan on taking care of yourself and your health, even as you age. And how are you going to do that?
Exactly. And one thing when we do retirement income planning for people who are either in retirement or 5 to 10 years away, we do quite comprehensive medical expense planning, really figuring out what they currently are spending, what they'll be spending when they pay for Medicare premiums, out-of-pocket expenses, and that's why you have enough in your emergency savings, especially when you're retired, because you never want to need to have some type of surgery or some type of medical procedure and you can't afford it. Our goal is to help people have enough to be able to afford those type of occurrences. So that's one sad aspect of retirement income planning, but it's very important.
Yes, absolutely. I love the phrase that you used a minute ago, next generation investors.
Yes.
I love that. Rather than putting a label on as millennial or Gen Z, that's a beautiful term, and I'm going to take that from you and use it now.
Great.
Next generation investors.
Yes.
So there's got to be a lot of challenges for our younger generation. We live in a interesting world right now. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, what do you think are the challenges for the younger generation? And then if you could talk about maybe some strategies and resources for younger individuals and families, how they address these challenges to create a more secure financial future.
Yes. Yeah, that's the hard part, especially as a next generation investor. I'd say the biggest obstacles the next gen faces is student loan debt.
Yes.
Buying a home, getting rid of credit card debt, and having enough in your emergency savings. And that's all before you start investing. Now, I always encourage people, invest at different points in life. You don't have to have bought a home to start investing, but the pivotal aspects. Oh, and daycare expenses.
Oh,
that
yes.
is so expensive. The cost of having a child. Luckily, what I found in the pandemic brought a lot of negatives. We all know that. But one of the positives was a spouse could now work from home. Both parents could work from home. So that means there's double income while still taking care of kids. So that's actually been, I think, one of the positives expense-wise. But daycare is still expensive, and a lot of people don't work from home. So I'd say when I talk to next generation investors and all investors, we talk about maximizing family time. That's one aspect that we do at Desert Wealth Management. With us being a family-focused firm, father-daughter firm, a lot of our clients are either young couples who want to have a family, or they are older couples who have a family, or someone who has a great value on family. Family is the common denominator between almost everyone we work with. And even someone who maybe doesn't have close family members, you have a close friend.
Yes.
And so that's why we always try to maximize your family time, regardless of your age. And the goal is just having the higher why of investing, financial planning. And the reason I bring this up with young people is I always ask them about their goals first. Because sometimes as a young person, you have credit card debt and student loan debt, and you're saving for a house, but everything's expensive. It can be really disheartening to even think about all the different goals.
Right.
So before we even dive into those topics, I ask them, if you had financial freedom, if you had enough money, what would you do with your life? And a lot of times, it's being able to provide for their family and not worry about that, afford experiences and trips with family, or being generous with their family. So I always focus on the specific higher why of the family time, of the generosity. So we work towards that. And then we backtrack in simple action steps of how to pay off student loan debt, how to pay off credit card debt, how to make it attainable. It may take a long time, but I tell people if you're diligent at it and you have a mindful budget, it will work out.
Yes, it will. It will. Do you see a lot of these next generation investors having to move back home with mom and dad and after college? I almost said I worry about that with my son. I welcome him, quite frankly. You know, I'm being a mom. I welcome him back into our home, presuming that he will maintain a solid job, career, pay his bills, et cetera, et cetera. But I truly do not know how he could afford a place to live right now, start his savings. I don't know. And I know that I'm kind of too closely connected emotionally because of being his parent, but that worries me quite a bit. You know, these kids that are having to move back home right now.
And some people do move home. And I think if any parents are listening to this, and this may happen in the near future, having a good sit-down conversation with your child and say, you know, we expect you to pay part of the rent, which is probably a lot less money than they would be paying, so they're still able to save money.
Yes.
We expect you to pay off your student loans. We expect you to find a job. You have an expectation, and then you just give a timeline. You have 3 months to find a job, or 2 months, or whatever. So having a timeline, and then expectations financially. And then letting them know that this is not permanent. This is a place to jumpstart into your career. Like once your student loan debt is paid off, then move out. You know, those kind of different timelines. Some of our next generation investors are living at home, but they're saving so much money paying off debt, and they're going to have such a great foundation that defensive is lined up, and then they'll go after the offensive. So sometimes it works really well for young people, and it could be really healthy for the relationship of the parents now that they have an independent child, right?
As usual, I love your optimism and your very positive outlook on that, because I talk to some of my colleagues and other parents who are like, oh boy, our kid's moving back. But your attitude around the child moving back, as you say, it's a very positive, it can be a very positive time for the parent-child relationship and set them on a path for success. Because the situation right now in our world, it is what it is, and we have to do the best we can with the situation. And so that was beautifully said, and I don't want any parents or young people out there to feel defeated or as though you're a failure. Or, I mean, again, we are in challenging times now, and we have to figure out a way to pivot and adapt, and just keep your eye on the prize, and you'll get there.
And we like to frame it as being realistic and optimistic.
There we go.
If scenario one, your child moves out and they're going to have credit card debt because of it, well, scenario two, they live at home, they're able to save some money and move out in 6 months without credit card debt. You're an optimist and you're a realist, and you're investing in your child's future. And let them know, I'm investing in you because I see your potential. It's just times are hard right now.
Yes, wonderfully said. That's fantastic. You also mentioned the deeper motivations for financial planning really come down to the focus on family time and life purpose. And so how do we align our financial goals with our values and our personal mission, I guess is what I want to say.
Yes. Yeah, it's always, like we've mentioned earlier, having that higher why behind why you're doing something. And the reason this is so important, and what I found with my dad and I working with clients for, I guess when we add our careers up together, about 45 years, if you don't have that higher why, it's going to be really hard to do the hard parts of being a good steward of your finances. It's great to define goals. It's exciting to have a vision board and have your financial plan. But what really makes it actually work towards your favor and your goals is doing the action steps, paying off that credit card debt, putting money towards your mortgage and your car loan, you know, the positive debts, putting money into your investment accounts and having a certain amount you spend on fun items every month and sticking to that so you could save enough. Those are the hard decisions. Everyday decisions will work into your financial plan, but it's making those good decisions. And when you know you shouldn't buy something that you don't need, but you really want to, if it's something that doesn't align with your plan, you think of your higher why. Well, I'm saying no to this so I could say yes to my family, or to put more into my child's college savings account, or I'm saying no to this so I could pay off my student loan debt earlier to have a good foundation. And I always tell people it's good to live in an abundance mindset, but to be realistic. Every yes is a no, and every no is a yes. And so having that higher why makes it so much easier to think, oh, like, I don't need this right now. I may buy it 6 months from now, but by saying no now, I say yes to something greater. And that higher why is almost always greater than a small purchase that may not mean a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's that habit that can mean a lot.
The habit.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that habit.
that's a great point.
Yeah. And how that applies in actual planning, we ask people their short-term, midterm, and long-term goals.
Okay.
And one reason we do that is we kind of like to divide it into different buckets. You know, the short-term goals probably keep pretty liquid, cash, a high-yield savings account, but the midterm and long-term goals will probably invest that depending on the time frame and your risk tolerance, of course. So it's good to know what your goals are, how long it is until you want to reach them. And then from there, that's when you know, okay, I'm going to put this much money every month towards these midterm goals. I'm going to put this much money a month towards my long-term goals, and I'll put this much towards the short term. You have that system, you set up the automatic contributions from your checking or savings account, and it's just that great system. And so that's why having that higher why is the first step, dividing that into your short-term, midterm, and long-term goals. And then from there is where you put money towards those goals.
Yeah. Well, I compare that whole higher why to like a set of your core values. So when I started the law firm, the first thing I did was decide on, what are our core values going to be? And I took the core values from my own personal life and I merged them into the firm. And so I think that, that's the North Star. I don't know what you think about that, but that's kind of the North Star here is whatever your core values are, should help you as far as being a catalyst towards, your why, and why are you doing this, and why are you creating these good habits now that will certainly become fruitful in the future.
Yes.
And so I know that you've mentioned this a few times, the various steps in the planning process. But I'd like you to, if you don't mind, to walk through again the key steps. If someone were to come to you and contact you, and they're just getting started as a young, I'm already forgetting the term, the next generation investor. Yeah. What are the steps that they should take and that you would walk them through?
Of course, yes. And I do also want to say a disclaimer. Anytime I talk about investments and planning, this is not advice. This is educational content. So keep that in mind.
Very well.
But how we do the financial planning process at Desert Wealth Management, and what I love about this is every advisor does it a little differently. So, which is great. But how Dad and I do it is if someone reaches out to us and says, hey, I would like to do retirement income planning, or, I'm 35, I want my kids to go to college one day, kind of midlife planning. Or we work with people who want to buy a house, they're late 20s, they want to start a family. So whatever planning we do, we usually have an intro call. We share what we're about. So we talk about the relationship we have, how I'm a certified financial planning professional. I went to school for this. Dad has his investment background. We work together in that. He's training me all about investments. So we do that intro call. And then what we do is we ask what their short-term, midterm, and long-term goals are. We ask other questions such as, what are your fears about money? What are your joys about money? If you had all the money in the world, what would you do? What's the greatest way to maximize your return on life? Is it family time? Is it being generous? Is it traveling the world? Is it just being comfortable? So we ask those questions. And then if they want to work with us, we end the call, whether it's a Zoom call, we work with people all over the country, or we have a lot of people local that like to come into the office. And then we email them a list of tasks, a list of questions to complete to send us, their pre-tax income, the last 2 pay stubs. We ask them to send them a list of their fixed bills, their variable bills, a list of their fund money expenses over the last 2 months. Send them the statements on their investment accounts for their 401k or other employer-sponsored plan. And on that note, a lot of people don't know how their 401k is invested. And if it isn't invested in the way that aligns with you as an investor, that's something you need to look at. And so we do all that life insurance planning. We have them send us life insurance policies, their tax returns if they want some tax planning education. So it's a lot of information. They send us their whole financial picture. And then we do, depending on the package they select with us, if they want the full financial planning, we do a comprehensive financial plan. And that next meeting where we present to them is about an hour and a half long. We look at their whole picture, their whole goals, and we essentially go down the funnel until we get to, if you want these goals, do these 5 action steps a month or 3 action steps. And then every quarter, depending on how often they meet, every quarter, every 6 months, every year, we review the plan and we make updates so they know, at age 55, you need to do these action steps. At age 65, you need to do these ones. And it's just a beautiful plan where all their goal or all their job is to do is do those action steps. Yeah, so it makes it easy. And our slogan is we like to manage your financial goals, see worry less about money, and use that energy to focus more on maximizing family time and enjoying today.
Wow.
Because when you don't have a plan, you have all these different decisions to make. There's decision fatigue. And so we like to keep it simple and a few action steps.
That's fantastic. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people, and so many of my clients, when they come to us for estate planning, for some reason, people seem to think this is a one and done.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start investing. I'm just going to create a trust, and then I don't have to look at it again. That is not true. It is not a spectator sport. You have to be fully invested and understand that you will revisit your planning every few years. And then there will be these action steps that you need to take in order to continue the path to achieving your goal. So again, very much on the same page. I love how you just laid that out.
I love how our planning practices align so much.
They really do. They really do. And this is what happens when and I know Isabel said that, they're a little different. Well, I say that all the time. We're a little different. And so when you open yourself up to the universe, and you have integrity and you have vulnerability, and maybe, you are a little different and your systems and processes are a little different, and you treat your clients differently. And so the universe, conspires to bring team members together and colleagues together. And so I can say that I've worked with Isabel for a while on many clients. And so we definitely work well together. And you, as an individual who is planning for your retirement and your children's legacy, you deserve a team of individuals and professionals. It's not just about talking to a lawyer or an advisor. You deserve a team of people that are there to support you and advocate for you and help you along the way to achieve your goals.
Yes, I tell my friends too when they ask about my job, I say it's a huge responsibility, as I'm sure you feel. You're helping people literally live the life they want, and you're managing so much, but it's a privilege and an honor to work with people that they trust us to guide their life. It's a fulfilling job, and we both love changing people's lives.
It's true. We get up every morning, and I know you do the same thing, and I say, thank you, God. I am blessed that I get to do this every single day.
Yes.
That people entrust their entire, their family, dirt, so to speak, the stories that I've heard, and the worries, the things that keeps them up at night, the pain points. And they just divulge all of this information to us. And so it's really quite an honor. And I know that we both take it very seriously, but I can't imagine doing anything else.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Right?
And I always, every morning, I pray to God for wisdom.
If
there's anything a client brings to me that I don't know about, that he'll give me the wisdom, and I'll, of course, do all of my research. But having that too.
And I'm glad that you just said that, because you don't want to engage with a professional who just has answers for you all the time. You ask a question, oh yeah, this, that, and the other. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're a professional is just kind of the yes man or the yes woman and just giving you answers because it's what they think you want to hear. You do want someone who is mindful and who's going to take the time to research your needs, because every everybody's different. Everybody's should be treated differently. You're very a special individual, and you're not just a blanket. It's not just a blanket answer for everybody.
Everyone deserves due diligence by their professional to say, let me get back to you on that. And then,
Yeah. I think the last thing that I want to touch on, there's so much good information here, is the behavioral role in finance and making sound financial decisions, and really how to shift your mindset so that you can become more successful in how you manage your finances that will create this long-term impact for success. And I've had to do that myself, being locked into this scarcity mindset. It's very expensive to run a law practice. The money comes in, the money goes out, and the college tuition, and I don't like being in that scarcity mindset. So I've had to personally do a lot of work on this, and I can see how it might affect the younger generation as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The behavioral aspect is what my dad and I do all day. And we always say, when I went to college, Dad said, take some psychology and education courses, because we talk about money maybe this much, and then the rest of life story, money stories, decisions is this much.
Yes.
It's crazy. So I would say, regardless of age, when you're building that defense, think about why you think of money the way you do. What's your money story? Did you grow up in a home that viewed money positively or negatively? Was it scarce? Was it abundant? That changes up how you spend money and save money, whether you're 25 or 80 years old. So understanding where you come from, and then choosing to make your own story. Just because your family did one thing one way, just because things happen to you, doesn't mean you have to live in that all the time. So you think about what kind of life you want, what kind of money system you want, and then you build a plan to get there. And so a lot of times in this industry, we say, don't make emotional decisions about investing. And while I believe that's true, your financial plan is emotional.
Yes.
And it should be, because money is the currency we use to spend time with our family and to live a fulfilling job, or not work at a fulfilling job because of money. So I think a financial plan, the goals, the aspirations, that higher why should be emotional. You get that down on paper. And then as a planner, I look at everything without emotion, because I'm looking at someone else's life, and I can make non-emotional decisions about the action steps that line up with your emotions. So one way you could do this on your own is just having a journal and writing down everything about money that worries you, and then writing out everything about money that brings you joy. And sometimes when you just get that out, you could look at your monthly budget or your annual plan less emotionally, because you got the emotions out. And when it comes to young people, I know you mentioned that, the emotions of feeling like they can't provide for their family. That's one, and I talk to all my next generation investors, that's their biggest worry. And so I like to ask, what's the worst thing that could happen? We kind of go through, if your fear happened, how would you get out of it? And then I outline it, and it's not as worrisome. So that's the biggest thing for young people. For older people is when they retire, how they go from being lifetime savers to now a spender. That's a big behavioral finance topic that we work through.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's taken from the Stoics. I have this great little book by Marcus Aurelius, The Meditations, and the Stoics believed that you simply ask yourself, not simply, but you ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? What's the worst possible outcome? And then number one, you realize, well, maybe that's not so bad after all. And then number two, you now create the plan as to how you would manage that. Beautifully said. I love that.
Your contingency plan.
Your contingency plan.
Sometimes you have a lot of contingency plans. We have the main plan. We have contingency plan A, B, and C.
Right. Yeah. Yes. As Ross says on the sitcom Friends, pivot,
yes.
right?
Oh, that's what life's about.
That's what life is about. That's what makes life interesting and fun, I suppose. But what an absolute pleasure to have you on my podcast.
I loved this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how listeners might be able to get in touch with you. And of course, we'll put all of the information for Isabel in the show notes.
Yes. So our website is www.desertwealth.net. That'll be linked show notes.
Yes.
And that's how you could contact us, learn about our services, our packages. We also have a podcast, the
Yeah.
Financial Wealth and Health Podcast. Season 2 starts this next
Oh
Thursday.
my
I'm
goodness.
so excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then you could follow me on Instagram at isabel.theadvisor or isabel.the.advisor for educational content. And I'm just a phone call and email away. If you have any questions, I love answering them. And for those of you that haven't listened to all of Elizabeth's podcasts yet, she has amazing episodes. I love them, and she's a wonderful human being. So thank you for having me here. I was so excited, and I consider you a dear friend. Thank you.
I am so proud to call you not just a colleague, but my friend. I really do cherish our relationship. Thank you so much for being here. You are a breath of fresh air. All right.
Yes.
Thank you all for tuning in to Estate Expectations Podcast. We'll see you next time.